This is the depiction of meteorological divination by Robert Flood. This chart is a summary of the contents of the chart of depiction of meteorological divination and can also be related to the chart for the plan of universal causes later. Both of these charts are by Robert Flood and show different themes of relationships. This is an explanation of the Kabbalistic principles shown in the depiction of meteorological divination. The relationships to the Sephirothic spheres and the planets named after them are such that the distinction between Kabbalistic astrology and regular Mantic astrology are evident. Robert Flood stratifies this chart into three basic sections representing a cause, an effect, and a consequence. The cause being God and his spiritual world, the effect being the created world, and in this context, the consequence being the effect upon incarnated mankind. The uppermost section presents at its center the incomprehensible, indescribable deity, flanked by his 10 primary ideas expressed by the corresponding Hebrew names of God, the angelic orders, the numbers, the chief angels, and the etheric planetary spheres, in complete accord with the Sephirothic Kabbalistic order. The deity is symbolized as an eternal, ever-present, all-penetrating light, perpetually radiating its resplendent brilliance into the darkness, having the Tetragrammaton, Hebrew 4-letter word meaning Jehovah, in its center, distinguishing this light from all others. It should be noted that the etheric planetary spheres and the planets of the solar system are not, and therefore cannot be dealt with as though they were one and the same. The physical planets are named after and are analogous to those named in the etheric. These writings establish God as the prime mover, his order supreme, the guiding cause of all that follows below. The connection between God and the sun, the sphere, in the Kabbalistic order is further exemplified in the center of the chart by the sun receiving the light from God. In the New Revelation writing, Jacob Larber describes the importance of the sun to spiritual development in the work. The spiritual sun. This is further emphasized by the excerpt from Psalm 19, "In the sun hath he set his tabernacle." Furthermore, there is the physical sun, which is visible to anyone on earth, and a corresponding spiritual sun, which in the relevant work of Jacob Larber is the heaven of the afterlife, which is often referred to biblically. To the left and right, in the etheric darkness above the hemispheric vault of the Earth's atmosphere, are the two charts. They are placed here deliberately to show what effects that the radiance originating from above the Earth have, and that planetary aspects can and do actively affect the general weather and sometimes meteorological phenomenon of the Earth. If these aspects are known and can be anticipated, an accurate prognostication can be made because of it. The chart on the left offers specific effects caused by planetary conjunctions, oppositions, and squares upon the Earth's weather within the 4 seasons, indicated as V, spring, AE, summer, A, autumn, and H, winter. To the right is a circular chart showing planetary aspects enabling one to generally predict weather. The words "opening of the great gates of heaven" are in the outer circle. Under these words there are various astronomical aspects well known to astrologers and astronomers that produce rainfall when present. These are: the moon is passing out of conjunction, the square, or opposition with the sun, Jupiter or Mars, and directly transits Saturn, Mercury, or Venus, or vice versa. Astrologers predict abundant rain and possible flooding under these aspects. The next circle shows the opening of the lesser doors of heaven, by which aspects consequentially produce rainfall. These were kept secret that the astrologers seldom divulged, because this information could be very useful. The central portion of the chart shows the sun and moon tracking across the vault of the sky from the eastern sunrise to the western sunset. Within this vault, the meteorological phenomena precipitate from the starry heaven of space through the 3 strata of atmosphere and onto the physical Earth as a result of planetary and stellar alignment, and their emitted specifica light reflecting in the layers of the atmosphere, emissions from the Earth itself, the breath of the Earth, the winds, and the effects by unseen beings that Flood refers to as good angels, bad angels, and demons. In the outermost crescent of the hemisphere are unusual flame-like lights, meteors, comets, and glittering scintilla. Some of the signatures of these comets are described as auspiciously reddish, dark, or silvery blue. Others are more favorable in their pinkish or splendid light. Again, these are described in detail by Jacob Larber, in his earth and moon, some as having been projected or born of the earth itself. Below these, in the next crescent, are depicted various types of precipitation, some common and some unusual. Among the most common are rains, snow, thunder, and lightning, trembling lights within clouds and winds. Among the less frequent and often destructive are extreme thunder with lightning bolts, hail, sudden strong wind gusts, hurricanes, and disruptive whirlwinds, what might be referred to as tornadoes at present. The rarest grouping being described as monstrous showers, to more literally emphasize that they are extremely out of the ordinary. These might include frogs, blood, stones, or fish, which have also been known to fall from the sky, or biblical fire and brimstone falling from the sky. These come as a result of specifica maturing prematurely in the atmosphere. Some of these phenomena are attributed, in addition, to implied strictly physical events, or to the actions of good angels, bad angels, and malicious demons, also described in great detail. In the lower crescent, representing the lower atmosphere closest to the Earth's surface, are depicted, in addition to the effects produced by reflected light and fine precipitates out of moisture, are the 12 winds. The atmospheric effects produced due to reflected light, light passing through atmospheric humidity, rains or mists, the lens-like effect of the atmosphere on light, and cloud formations, are colorations and magnifications of the sun and moon. The parallel light shafts from the sun shining through clouds and the like. The very familiar circular and arc-shaped rainbows due to light refraction are described as our halos around the sun, moon, and other stars, the sunlight refracted through the atmosphere producing reddishness in the evening sky. The very common appearances of the moon in the sky and the morning sky, and reflections of the sun itself in the sky are also shown. These phenomena are primarily light produced, and may be one reason why Flood has named this chart in Latin as Catoptrum Meteorographicum. Catoptrics is the study of phenomena produced by reflected light and or rays of various types being acted upon for the purpose of divination. Such apparent low cloud formations called goats, shooting or flying stars, the very fine precipitate that produces dew and frost born out of the very finest vapors of the lower atmosphere are shown. It is also very possible that in the lower atmosphere observed at the Earth's surface, the various types of mirages such as temples appearing in the sky due to reflection are very possible. In many of these phenomena, importance is placed on the position or point of view of the observer in order to observe some of these projected effects. This positioning is referred to as aspect. For instance, in order to see a rainbow, the observer must have the sun shining behind him in order for the refracted colors of the rainbow to be projected in front of him. The observer must be between the sun and the rainbow. There is also an explanation for the effect of light shining against the darkness of space to produce the familiar cerulean or very dark blue of the sky. The 12 winds from all points of the compass are of particular interest, as they can bring good and bad influences with them depending upon their direction and the lands they traverse before arriving at their ultimate destination. Although the principles of the character, inherent in the directional origin of the specific winds, are made, the reference to the southern or African winds makes the effects of these winds described specifically relative to Europe. The lowest portion of the chart is divided into 3 portions. In the central portion, a man is reclining on the earth. By incarnating, man has no choice but to bear the weight of effects, causes from the spiritual world, the effects of the astral world, and consequences of upon the physical, and therefore is at the very bottom of the chart. Out of his mouth he utters the statement, "Man is the perfection and end of all creatures in the world." This statement is of immense significance, yet it is not explained by Robert Flood in this chart. Here the writings of Jacob Lorber are of immeasurable value. What is being uttered means that all of the material spirit substance, out of which the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom are composed, goes through a progression from the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms, culminating in the human being, where it can be potentially perfected and made freer. To be clear, this is not the evolution of species. In the human being, the progression of physical matter does end in the vessel made in the image of God, for the salvation of both the human being and the physical matter. Flanking the recumbent man are 2 explanations. On the left, one of astronomical phenomena sent by good angelic beings to be beneficial to mankind, and on the right, other astronomical phenomena sent by malevolent angels as a scourge to mankind. The benevolent angels send favorable winds, rains, dews, which is a benevolent mana to plant and animal life on earth, as opposed to the bad dew, which has the opposite effect. Tornadoes, hurricanes, cold, ice, clouds, rains, and lightning. Whereas the malevolent angels bring fiery whirlwinds with and without demons, furious winds, rains, springs, thunder, and lightning and hail. Whatever is of malevolent origin is sometimes sent to punish the earthly inhabitants in the listed extreme biblical precipitates of sulfur and brimstone. But in the more everyday occurrences like rains and snow, the unseen spiritual activities that bring them about is to balance out unseen evils by the angels that oversee and maintain the earth. Each statement made in these two lower left and right panels are supported by biblical sources, indicating where similar events have taken place in the context of the consequence of human behavior, spiritual justice, and the consequent heavenly will, the fiat. In conclusion, Robert Flood proves that he is no fool. He shows his thinking is clear and sound and devoid of usual superstition born of pure ignorance or baseless theory of his time. His explanations of atmospheric phenomena is scientific, but he also emphasizes the overriding guidance of divine providence in all things. The guidance of divine providence is shown to be very structured, orderly, rational, and completely contained within true Kabbalistic and Christian teachings. It is presented in a manner that few, if any, are capable of disputing. Again, all of the observations, conclusions, and axioms laid down hereforth by Flood are completely substantiated by the Holy Bible and by Barden and Lorber with mathematical preciseness. Spheres 1 to 10, which each have a name of God, and a sephira, and an order of angels, and a chief of angels, and an ethereal circle. Sphere 1 is Ahia, the Kether, the seraphim. The chief of angels of Metatron is Metatron, and its ethereal circle is the primum mobile. Number 2 is Yah. Its sephira is the Chokmah. The order of angels is the cherubim. Its chief of angels is Roziel, and its ethereal circle is the stellar heaven. The third sphere is the Elohim, the stellar heaven. Its sephira is the Binah. Its order of angels is the thrones. Its chief of angels is Zabkael, and its ethereal circle is Saturn. Sphere 4 is El. Its sephira is Hesed. Its order of angels is Dominations. Its chief of angels is Zadkiel. Its ethereal circle is Jupiter. Number 5, Sphere 5, is Elohim Gibor. Its sephira is the Geburah. Its order of angels is Powers. Its chief of angels is Samael. Its ethereal circle is Mars. Sphere 6 is the Eloah. Its sephira is the Tifereth. Its order of angels is the Virtues. Its chief of angels is Michael. Its ethereal circle is the Sun. Number 7 is the Jehovah Sabaoth. Its sephira is the Netzach. Its order of angels is the Principalities. Its chief of angels is the Nil. The ethereal circle is Venus. Number 8 is the Elohim Sabaoth. Its sephira is Hod. Its order of angels is archangels. Its chief of angels is Raphael. And its ethereal circle is Mercury. Sphere 9 is the Shaddai. Its sephira is the Yeshad. Its order of angels is angels. Its chief of angels is Gabriel. Its ethereal circle is the moon. Sphere 10 is Adonai. Its sephira is the Malkuth. Its order of angels is souls. Its chief of angels is the soul of the Messiah. Its ethereal circle is the elements. causarum universalum speculum, the plan of universal causes. I'll read it from left to right. Sunrise, giving life and glory, and it increases up to vigor, and then begins to decrease down to day's end. Sunset, or the beginning of night and privation. Then it begins again on the other side, the dawn of the creation of day. God's appearing Aleph, illuminated, and divine wisdom. And you see that it goes 10, 20, 30, 40 as the time continues up. And then you see the divisions of these orders. So the first one is the Aleph, Ahia, Father, Chater, Crown, Seraphim, Metatron, Primus Mobile, Mineral Elements, Water, Food of Life, Spirit, Mercury. On to the next one, it's Yah, Jehovah, the Chokmah, Windowin, Cherubim, Sophiel, in the stellar heaven, evenness of form or oneness of form, fire, impulse of life, the soul, and sulfur. Next is Mem, and there's more readings in here. There's the primal father of the archetype in cosmogony with the mother, Aleph, bringing human nature. So the next one is Elohim, Wenai, Prudence, Thrones, Zephkiel, the sphere of, and then it's an astrological sign, and the union of matter with form, the earth, terrestrial something, body, salt. Next is El, chaste, clemency, dominations, Zadkiel, the sphere of, and it's another astrological sign, nature's energy, the lesser air, the vapor of life, the internal spirit, mercury of life. Elohim, Gabor, Gabura, powers, Samael, the sphere of, and it looks like masculinity, impulsive energy, fire, warm, exhalation, fiery Rephaim, sulfur. So as it's moving across, it's moving through all the different aspects. The vow, Shin, Eloah, Tiferoth, grace, the virtues, Michael, the sphere of, and then it's the point within the circle, the vital energy, regions of the upper and fiery abyss or ash. I can't read the next two, they're just a little too small. It looks like vitrifying and salt. Then next is Jehovah, then Elohim, then Sadai, then Adonai. Principalities, archangels, angels, souls, Haniel, Raphael, Gabriel, fresh water, windy air, son of water, earth. All these perfectly compounded bodies of the earth, replete by the grace and act divine, animal, vegetable, mineral. So what we're going to talk today about is the flat earth and weather and the Kephalia. And we're going to talk about the ebb and flow and the cosmic devices that run the functions of the changes of weather and temperature and moisture and humidity and all the changes that we see on Earth day to day. And we're going to talk about and explain how that mechanism and that device functions. So this information comes from the Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants and other ancient fragmentary texts. And what we're going to do is review some of the pieces that describe the workings of our cosmos and describe the workings of the cosmic stream, and put it together with what we know about the flat Earth already. We'll show that more than likely this is how the Earth actually functions. We've got the Kephalia, which is the monstrosity that controls the ebb and flow of the tides and the winds and the weather. Then we have also the Pika, the oath created at the beginning of time between God and his heavenly hosts that hold up the flat Earth and hold up the pillars that hold up the flat Earth. And how that oath is important and responsible for the maintenance of the Earth in general. The cosmic breath stream itself is the Kephalia and the ebb and flow. Samyaza knew the name of God and made a deal to give that name to Ishtar, and that is what made Ishtar so powerful and made him or her a god, a little g god. Taba'et, the son of the serpent, and Kaba'el taught the oath to the humans, and the oath's name is Pika. They asked Michael to enunciate the name so that they might say it in the oath, and they placed it in Aka'e, in the hand of Michael. The heavens are hung, and the world is hung from the oath. The essential feature of the year is its division into 2 equal periods of 6 months, based first on the predominating length of the days over that of the nights, and vice versa. Conditions which are governed by the varying hours of sunrise and sunset, and secondly, by either high or low height reached by the sun in the heavens at midday. The first cycle, during which the days are longer than the nights and the sun reaches its culminating point of the year, extends from the spring equinox to the autumn equinox, i.e. March 21 to September 22, and the second cycle, during which, inversely, the duration of the nights exceeds that of the days, and the sun descends to its lowest point of the year, extends from the autumn equinox to the spring equinox, i.e. September 23 to March 20. These 2 6-month periods are also characterized by an opposition of temperature. During the first cycle, which corresponds to spring and summer, the heat gradually rises and falls, while during the second cycle, which comprises autumn and winter, it is the intensity of the cold which progressively increases and decreases. It might be said that it is evident that the heat of the summer and the low temperatures of the winter result from either the high or low heat reached by the sun at midday, and also from the alternate predominating length of the days over the nights, although it might not be absolutely certain that the variations of temperature are entirely due to these particular circumstances. To what reason must be attributed the variations which exist in regard to the sun's daily height and the hours at which it rises and sets, which seem to determine the various temperatures of the year? These regular fluctuations must necessarily have an origin, and it might be remarked that no scientific research or speculation has ever been attempted in this direction. The sun has been compared by the ancients to a chariot drawn by steeds and to a boat manned by rowers, meaning by this that it is not self-propelled. Its movement, therefore, is derived from some external power, and in that case it would appear that the variations in the height of the sun and its hours of rising and setting are due to the passage and to the impulsion of 2 regular successive currents, or cosmic breath streams, of 6 months each, i.e. a warm increasing and decreasing breath stream prevailing from the spring equinox to the autumn equinox, followed by a cold, increasing and decreasing breath stream from autumn to spring. And the conclusion is that the impulse of these 2 summer and winter cosmic breaths govern the height of the sun, and that they also have the effect of either advancing or retarding the hours of sunrise and sunset, on which depend their respective lengths of days and nights. So it's interesting to note here, it may not be that the cosmic breath streams are governing the height of the sun, but they may be a function of the height of the sun. It is therefore the arrival and growing intensity of the warm summer breath stream which from March 21 causes the sun to gradually ascend to its culminating point of the year at the June solstice. And the decreasing intensity of the same warm stream which, after the solstice, causes the height of the sun to decline steadily until 22 September, the moment of the equinox, when the cold current sets in. At the same time, the impulse of this warm cosmic stream has the effect of advancing the hour of sunrise and retarding that of sunset, so that the days become longer than the nights. On the other hand, it is the arrival and growing intensity of the cold winter breath stream about the 23rd September which causes the sun to further descend to its lowest point of the year at December solstice, and the decreasing intensity of this cold breath which, after the winter solstice, causes the sun to rise again until 21 March, when the warm breath takes over. At the same time, the cold current has the effect of retarding the hour of sunrise and of advancing the sunset, whereby nights become longer than the days. As it can be seen, these two semi-annual cosmic streams or currents, warm and cold, each represent a complete breath comprising a rising phase of inspiration from the equinox to the solstice, and a following phase of expiration from the solstice to the following equinox. And it's these two double phases of a duration of 3 months each, controlling the daily height of the sun and the hours of its rising and setting, which causes the 4 seasons. Chapter 24. And from thence I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain range of fire which burnt day and night. And I went beyond it, and saw 7 magnificent mountains, all differing each from the other, and the stones thereof were magnificent and beautiful, magnificent as a whole, of glorious appearance and fair exterior, 3 towards the east, 1 founded on the other, and 3 towards the south, 1 upon the other, and deep rough ravines, no one of which joined with any other. And the 7th mountain was in the midst of these, and it excelled them in height, resembling the seat of a throne. And fragrant trees encircled the throne, and amongst them was a tree such as I have never yet smelt. Neither was any amongst them, nor were others like it. It had a fragrance beyond all fragrance, and its leaves and blooms and wood wither not forever. And its fruit is beautiful, and its fruit resembles the dates of a palm. Then I said, How beautiful is this tree, and fragrant, and its leaves are fair, and its blooms very delightful in appearance. Then answered Michael, one of the holy and honored angels who was with me, and was their leader. And he said unto me, Enoch, why dost thou ask me regarding the fragrance of the tree? And why dost thou wish to learn the truth? Then I answered him, saying, I wish to know about everything, but especially about this tree. And he answered, saying, This high mountain which thou hast seen, whose summit is like the throne of God, is his throne, where the Holy Great One, the Lord of glory, the eternal King, will sit, when he shall come down to visit the earth with goodness. And as for this fragrant tree, no mortal is permitted to touch it till the great judgment, when he shall take vengeance on all, and bring everything to its consummation forever. It shall then be given to the righteous and holy. Its fruit shall be for food to the elect. It shall be transplanted to the holy place, to the temple of the Lord, the eternal King. Then shall they rejoice with joy and be glad, and into the holy place shall they enter, and its fragrance shall be in their bones. And they shall live a long life on earth, such as thy fathers lived. And in their days shall no sorrow or plague or torment or calamity touch them. Then blessed I the glory of God, the eternal King, who hath prepared such things for the righteous, and hath created them and promised to give to them. And And I went from thence to the middle of the earth, and I saw a blessed place in which there were trees with branches abiding and blooming, of a dismembered tree. And there I saw a holy mountain, and underneath the mountain to the east there was a stream, and it flowed towards the south. And I saw towards the east another mountain higher than this, and between them a deep and narrow ravine. In it also ran a stream underneath the mountain. And to the west thereof there was another mountain, lower than the former, and of small elevation, and a ravine deep and dry between them. And another deep and dry ravine was at the extremities of the three mountains. And all the ravines were deep and narrow, being formed of hard rock, and trees were not planted upon them. And I marveled at the rocks, and I marveled at the ravine. Yea, I marveled very much. Then I said, For what object is this blessed land, which is entirely filled with trees, and this accursed valley between? Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered and said, This accursed valley is for those who are accursed forever. Here shall all the accursed be gathered together who utter with their lips against the Lord unseemly words, and of his glory speak hard things. Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall be their place of judgment. In the last days there shall be upon them the spectacle of righteous judgment, in the presence of the righteous forever. Here shall the merciful bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King. In the days of judgment over the former, they shall bless him for the mercy in accordance with which he has assigned them their lot. Then I blessed the Lord of glory, and set forth his glory, and lauded him gloriously. Chapter 28. And thence I went towards the east, into the midst of the mountain range of the desert. And I saw a wilderness, and it was solitary, full of trees and plants. And water gushed forth from above. Rushing like a copious watercourse which flowed towards the northwest, it caused clouds and dew to ascend on every side. And thence I went to another place in the desert, and approached to the east of this mountain range. And there I saw aromatic trees exhaling the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh. And the trees also were similar to the almond tree. Chapter 30. And beyond these I went afar to the east, and I saw another place, a valley full of water, and therein was a tree, the color of fragrant trees such as the mastic. And on the sides of those valleys I saw fragrant cinnamon, and beyond these I proceeded to the east. And I saw other mountains, and amongst them were groves of trees, and there flowed forth from them nectar, which is named Sarara and Galbanum. And beyond these mountains I saw another mountain to the east of the ends of the earth, whereon were aloe trees, and all the trees were full of stacte, being like almond trees. And when one burnt it, it smelled sweeter than any fragrant odor. Chapter 32. And after these fragrant odors, as I looked towards the north over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of choice nard and fragrant trees, and cinnamon, and pepper. And thence I went over the summits of all these mountains, far towards the east of the earth, and passed above the Erythraean Sea, and went far from it, and passed over the angel Zotiel. And I came to the garden of righteousness. Ay, and from afar off trees more numerous than I, these trees, and great 2 trees there, very great, beautiful, and glorious, and magnificent, and the tree of knowledge, whose holy fruit they eat, and know great wisdom. That tree is in height like the fir, and its leaves are like those of the carob tree, and its fruit is like the clusters of the vine, very beautiful, and the fragrance of the tree penetrates afar. Then I said, How beautiful is the tree, and how attractive is its look. Then Raphael, the holy angel, who was with me, answered me and said, This is the tree of wisdom, of which thy father old in years, and thy aged mother, who were before thee, have eaten. And they learnt wisdom, and their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they were driven out of the garden. Chapter 33. And from thence I went to the ends of the earth, and saw there great beasts, and each differed from the other. And I saw birds also differing in appearance, and beauty and voice, the one differing from the other. And to the east of those beasts I saw the ends of the earth whereon the heaven rests, and the portals of the heaven open. And I saw how the stars of heaven come forth. And I counted the portals out of which they proceed, and wrote down all their outlets of each individual star by itself, according to their number and their names, their courses and their position, and their times and their months, as Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, showed. He showed all things to me, and and wrote them down for me. Also their names he wrote for me, and their laws and their companies. Chapter 34. And from thence I went towards the north to the ends of the earth. And there I saw a great and glorious device at the ends of the whole earth. And here I saw 3 portals of heaven open in the heaven. Through each of them proceed north winds. When they blow there is cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain. And out of one portal they blow for good. But when they blow through the other 2 portals, it is with violence and affliction on the earth, and they blow with violence. Chapter 35. And from thence I went towards the west to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 portals of the heaven, open such as I had seen in the east, the same number of portals and the same number of outlets. Chapter 36. And from thence I went to the south, to the ends of the earth, and saw there 3 open portals of the heaven, and thence there came dew, rain, and wind. And from thence I went to the east, to the ends of the heaven, and saw here the 3 eastern portals of heaven open, and small portals above them. Through each of these small portals pass the stars of heaven, and run their course to the west on the path which is shown to them. And as often as I saw, I blessed always the Lord of glory. And I continued to bless the Lord of glory, who has wrought great and glorious wonders, to show the greatness of his work to the angels, and to spirits and to men, that they might praise his work and all his creation, that they might see the work of his might, and praise the great work of his hands, and bless him forever.
The Book of the Courses of the Heaven, the relations of each, according to their classes, their dominion, and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who is with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world, and unto eternity, till the new creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of the heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises, and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven, and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal, and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the 4th, those 6 portals in the east. And in that 4th portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame, when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through that 4th portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th portal in the west of the heaven. And during this period the day becomes longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 30th morning. On that day the sun is longer than the night by a 9th part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 4th portal, and sets in the 4th, and returns to the 5th portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it, and sets in the 5th portal. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter, and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east, and enters into the 6th portal, and rises and sets in the 6th portal, 1 in 30 mornings, on account of its sign. On that day the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts, and the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east and enters into the 6th portal, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part, and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from that 6th portal in the west, and goes to the east, and rises in the 5th portal for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the 5th western portal. On that day the day decreases by 2 parts, and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes forth from that 5th portal, and sets in the 5th portal of the west, and rises in the 4th portal for 31 mornings, on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day the day is equalized with the night, and becomes of equal length, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd portal, and sets in the west in the 3rd portal. And on that day the night becomes longer than the day, and night becomes longer than night, and day shorter than day till the 30th morning, and the night amounts to exactly 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from the 3rd portal, and sets in the 3rd portal in the west, and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the 2nd portal in the east, and in like manner sets in the 2nd portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from that 2nd portal, and sets in the west in the 2nd portal, and returns to the east in the 1st portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the 1st portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night becomes longer, and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun has returned and entered into the 2nd portal in the east, and returns on those divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the 3rd portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. And the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise. Through the course of the sun these distinctions are made. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law and the course of the sun. In his return as often as he returns 60 times and rises, the great luminary which is named the sun for ever and ever. And that which thus rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is 7-fold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards size, they are both equal. And after this law I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in definite measure. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun, and thus she rises. And her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning, and on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day together with the sun in the portal where the sun rises. And the 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the 1/2 of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the 1/2 thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the 1/2 of 1 part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible that night with the 14 parts and the 1/2 of 1 of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. And I I saw another course, a law for her, and how according to that law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me, and I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights, till 15 days were accomplished. In single seventh parts she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in single seventh parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar course. In 2 months the moon sets with the sun, in those 2 middle portals, the third and the fourth. She goes forth for 7 days and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days, until she goes forth from the 5th and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the 1st portal in 8 days, and she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal from which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw their position, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an overplus of 30 days. And all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they are full, amount to 364 days. And the overplus of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years 6 days every year come to 30 days, and the moon falls behind the sun and the stars to the number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. In 3 years there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years 1,820 days, so that in 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days, and in 5 years she falls 50 days behind. To the sum of 1,770 there is to be added 1,062 days, and in 5 years there are 1,770 days, so that for the moon the days in 8 years amount to 2,832 days. For in 8 years she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80, and the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations, and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which it, the sun, rises, and sets 30 days. And the leaders of the heads of the thousands, who are placed over the whole creation and over all the stars, have also to do with the 4 intercalary days, being inseparable from their office, according to the reckoning of the year. And these render service on the 4 days which are not reckoned in the reckoning of the year. And owing to them men go wrong therein, for those luminaries truly render service on the world stations. 1 in the 1st portal, 1 in the 3rd portal of the heaven, 1 in the 4th portal, and 1 in the 6th portal. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. For the signs and the times and the years and the days the angel Uriel showed to me, whom the Lord of glory has set forever over all the luminaries of the heaven, in the heaven and in the world, that they should rule on the face of the heaven and be seen on the earth, and be leaders for the day and the night, the sun, moon, and stars, and all the ministering creatures which make their revolution in all the chariots of the heaven. In like manner 12 doors Uriel showed me, open in the circumference of the sun's chariot in the heaven, through which the rays of the sun break forth. And from them is warmth diffused over the earth, when they are opened at their appointed seasons, and for the winds and the spirit of the dew when they are opened, standing open in the heavens at the ends. As for the 12 portals in the heaven, at the ends of the earth, out of which go forth the sun, moon, and stars, and all the works of heaven, in the east and in the west. There are many windows open to the left and right of them, and one window at its appointed season produces warmth, corresponding as these do to those doors from which the stars come forth, according as he has commanded them, and wherein they set corresponding to their number. And I saw chariots in the heaven, running in the world, above those portals in which revolve the stars that never set. And one is larger than all the rest, and it is that makes its course through the entire world. at the ends of the earth I saw 12 portals open to all the quarters of the heaven, from which the winds go forth and blow over the earth. 3 of them are open on the face, the east of the heavens, and 3 in the west, and 3 on the right, the south of the heaven, and 3 on the left, the north. And the 3 first are those of the east, and 3 of the north, and 3 after those on the left of the south, and 3 of the west. Through 4 of these come winds of blessing and prosperity, and from those 8 come hurtful winds when they are sent. They bring destruction on all the earth, and on the water upon it, and on all who dwell thereon, and on everything which is in the water and on the land. And the first wind from those portals, called the east wind, comes forth through the first portal which is in the east, inclining towards the south. From it come forth desolation, drought, heat, and destruction. And through the second portal in the middle comes what is fitting, and from it there come rain and fruitfulness and prosperity and dew. And through the third portal which lies toward the north come cold and drought. And after these come forth the south winds through 3 portals. Through the first portal of them inclining to the east comes forth a hot wind, and through the middle portal next to it there come forth fragrant smells, and dew, and rain, and prosperity, and health. And through the third portal lying to the west come forth dew, and rain, locusts, and desolation. And after these the north winds from the 7th portal in the east come dew and rain, locusts, and desolation. And from the middle portal come in a direct direction health, and rain, and dew, and prosperity. And through the third portal in the west come cloud and hoarfrost, and snow and rain, and dew and locusts. And after these 4 are the west winds through the first portal adjoining the north, the left, come forth dew and hoarfrost, and cold and snow and frost. And from the middle portal come in a direct direction health and rain and dew and prosperity. And through the third portal in the west come cloud and hoarfrost, and snow and rain, and dew and locusts. And after these 4 are the west winds through the first portal adjoining the north, the left. Through the first portal adjoining the north come forth dew and hoarfrost, and cold and snow and frost. And from the middle portal come forth dew and rain, and prosperity and blessing. And through the last portal which adjoins the south come forth drought and desolation, and burning and destruction. And the 12 portals of the 4 quarters of the heaven are therewith completed, and all their laws, and all their plagues, and all their benefactions have I shown to thee, my son, Methuselah. And the first quarter is called the east, because it is the first. And the second the south, because the Most High will descend there, yea, there in quite a special sense will he who is blessed forever descend. And the west quarter is named the diminished, because there are all the luminaries of the heaven wane and go down. And the fourth quarter, named the north, is divided into 3 parts. The first of them is for the dwelling of men, and the second contains seas of water, and the abysses and forests and rivers, and darkness and clouds. And the third part contains the garden of righteousness. I saw 7 high mountains, higher than all the mountains which are on the earth. And thence comes forth hoarfrost, and days, seasons, and years pass away. I saw 7 rivers on the earth larger than all the rivers. One of them coming from the west pours its waters into the great sea. And these 2 come from the north, and pour their waters into the Erythraean Sea in the east. And the remaining 4 come forth on the side of the north to their own sea, 2 of them to the Erythraean Sea, and 2 into the great sea, and discharge themselves there. 7 great islands I saw in the sea and in the mainland, 2 in the mainland and 5 in the great sea. And the names of the sun are the following: the first Orjares, and the second Thomas. And the moon has 4 names. The first name is Isonia, the second Ebla, the third Benez, and the fourth Erai. These are the 2 great luminaries. Their circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and the size of the circumferences of both is alike. In the circumference of the sun there are 7 portions of light, which are added to it more than to the moon. And in definite measures it is transferred till the 7th portion of the sun is exhausted. And they set and enter the portals of the west, and make their revolution by the north, and come forth through the eastern portals on the face of the heaven. And when the moon rises, 1/14 part appears in the heaven, The light becomes full in her. On the 14th day she accomplishes her light, and 15 parts of light are transferred to her till the 15th day, when her light is accomplished, according to the sign of the year, and she becomes 15 parts. And the moon grows by the addition of 14th parts, and in her waning the moon decreases on the first day to 14 parts of her light, on the second to 13 parts of light, on the third to 12, on the fourth to 11, on the fifth to 10, on the sixth to 9, on the seventh to 8, on the 8th to 7, on the 9th to 6, on the 10th to 5, on the 11th to 4, on the 12th to 3, on the 13th to 2, on the 14th to the half of a seventh, and all her remaining light disappears wholly on the 15th. And in certain months the month has 29 days and once 28. And Uriel showed me another law, when light is transferred to the moon, and on which side it is transferred to her by the sun. During all the period during which the moon is growing in her light, she is transferring it to herself when opposite to the sun, called the new moon, for on that day the light rises upon her. She becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west, and from the east she rises at night. And the moon shines the whole night through till the sun rises over against her, and the moon is seen over against the sun. On the side whence the light of the moon comes forth, there again she wanes, till all the light vanishes, and all the days of the month are at an end, and her circumference is empty, void of light. And 3 months she makes of 30 days, and at her time she makes 3 months of 29 days, each, in which she accomplishes her waning in the first period of time. And in the first portal for 177 days. And in the time of her going out she appears for 3 months, and 3 months she makes of 30 days, and at her time she makes 3 months of 29 days each, in which she accomplishes her waning in the first period of time. And in the first portal for 177 days, and in the time of her going out she appears for 3 months of 30 days each, and for 3 months she appears of 29 each. At night she appears like a man for 20 days each time, and by day she appears like the heaven, and there is nothing else in her save her light. She becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west, and from the east she rises at night. And the moon shines the whole night through till the sun rises over against her, and the moon is seen over against the sun. On the side whence the light of the moon comes forth, there again she wanes till all the light vanishes, and all the days of the month are at an end, and her circumference is empty, void of light. And 3 months she makes of 30 days, and at her time she makes 3 months of 29 days each, in which she accomplishes her waning in the first period of time. And in the first portal for 177 days. And in the time of her going out she appears for 3 months of 30 days each, and for 3 months she appears of 29 each. And now, my son, I have shown thee everything, and the law of all the stars of the heaven is completed. And he showed me all the laws of these for every day, and for every season of bearing rule, and for every year, and for its going forth, and for the order prescribed to it every month and every week, and the waning of the moon which takes place in the 6th portal. For in this 6th portal her light is accomplished, and after that there is the beginning of the waning. In the waning which takes place in the 1st portal in its season, till 177 days are accomplished, reckoned according to weeks, 25 weeks and 2 days. She falls behind the sun, in the order of the stars exactly 5 days in the course of 1 period. And when this place which thou seest has been traversed, such is the picture and sketch of every luminary which Uriel the archangel, who is their leader, showed.
This is going to be about what clouds are, how clouds are made, and what they're really doing, and just some other observations that it's something that I've known about and talked about and looked at through different times in my life, different events. And so what I'm going to get into here is something that I noticed spending time in the mountains and at other places in the outdoors, camping in the outdoors, or being on airplane flights and other places that I've been where, and it's something that I've talked about before, not here on Flat Earth stuff, but with other people in my life quite a bit. And I find it an interesting thing. And what I'm talking about is compression zones, what are called, there's the leeward and the windward side of a mountain. And the windward side, so in British Columbia, this is a place where we have the ocean to the west, and that would be called the windward side. And that's the side where the winds and the westerly winds are pulled up over the mountains. And what happens there is that the air is compressed, or this is what the mainstream will tell us, is that the air moving over the mountains there, because of the rise in elevation being forced by the mountains, and because of the pinching and compression of that air and of those molecules and of the vapor there, that you end up with what's called the windward and the leeward. And so you end up with more rain on one side where it's been pressed up and created a cloud, and then on the other side of the mountain ranges where that's happened several times, all the moisture has been dropped out of the clouds from that effect. And then on the other side of the mountains you have a more arid, you have a more dry climate in a drier area, because the cloud's moisture supposedly has been forced out due to these condensation or pinch points. I like to call it a pinch point because that's the way that I picture it, is that you have the mountains up there pushing the air up, and that the air is also squeezed between the firmament, or the dome, or under the silly heliocentric model, there would be a nothingness there that separates us from the vacuum. They would call it, I guess, the Van Allen belt, which really is a plasma shield, but they like to pretend that it's nothing really there.